Rams beat the Bucs in maybe what was the most dramatic game outside of the Bills Chiefs. Rams built a monster lead, and I'm sitting there feeling good. I'm not going to hide it. I'm a Matt Stafford apologist. I love him. He's my guy. He went out and proved on Sunday to the whole world what all of his teammates always knew, how good he was, what he was able to do. Because guys that played with him, guys who had played even against him, they had that type of respect for Matt Stafford. They knew what he was about. They knew that he's a guy that can throw from all the arm slots, that he's a guy that keeps his eyes down the field, that he's tough, that he's a winner, he can get through progressions. All of those things they knew about Matt Stafford. Now, finally, people in the media and the everyday fan who watches this can understand it. They can understand that Matt Stafford is that dude. And when the world was crumbling around him in the second half, he stood strong. The guy throws for over 350 yards, high completion percentage, couple of touchdowns, going against Tom Brady, for heaven's sake, who guy is dealing, straight dealing, throws for over 3 bills himself, touchdown and a pick. And they're down 27-3. And the Tampa Bay Bucs come roaring back. And it was almost reminiscent. During the telecast, you could hear Michaels and Collins were joking around about how Tom Brady was down 28-3 against the Falcons in the Super Bowl. And you thought, surely this would not happen again. There's no conceivable way that they could come back. Well, they did. Tom goes to work, slices them up, dices them up. Next thing you know, it's 27-10. And then all of a sudden, poof, another score. It's 27-20 or 27-17. It's like, oh my gosh, like the world is collapsing around them. And then all of a sudden, Matt Stafford and the Rams go 3-and-out, and they're struggling. They're struggling mightily. They're trying to figure out a solution. They go 3-and-out. They punt the ball away. And Von Miller comes up with the biggest play that he could have. The reason why you brought him in, if you were the Rams, gets a strip sack on Tom. It's like, all right, Stafford's getting the ball, good field position. You staved it off. You felt momentum swinging back, and they're in a good spot. They're in a really good position. And then, Matt Stafford's making checks. He's not checking for the ball. He didn't raise his leg, and you could hear him say, I didn't raise my leg. The center inexplicably snaps the ball over his head. Not only, and Matt Stafford goes after it, he makes a valiant effort, tries to cut off JPP, so hopefully one of his offensive linemen can get the ball, sacrifices his body. They lose 20 some odd yards and they give up the football. Worst case scenario for the St. Louis Rams. What happens? Touchdown. Now all of a sudden you're in straight panic mode. And it's really hard in the game of football when it's like this in a lot of sports, to shift your mindset. When you're aggressive, you get a big lead. Then all of a sudden, you don't want to say you get passive, but you begin to draw back. You're like, hey, let's just nurse this thing to victory, nurse it to victory. Well, all of a sudden, you've got to turn it back up again. And you've got to find a way to understand, like, hey, I know that we're trying to nurse it. We got to put the gas down one more time. And it's really hard to make that jump in that conversion. And so then you see it right before the end of the game. Matt Stafford gets the ball back. Heck, almost gets sacked. It's moving forward. I don't know. Maybe he got across the line of scrimmage. Maybe not. Maybe it was a sack. Fumbles the football, recovers it. And you're thinking, man, just need this thing out and get it to overtime. And I love the fact that McVay had confidence in Matt Stafford. He had the confidence in him to say, let's go. Forget about that last play. 7 route. Cooper Kupp gets out of bounds. Awesome. And then when you're sitting there around midfield, and I respect Todd Bowles, the Tampa Bay defensive coordinator. He brings heat. He brings the nickel pressure to force the ball out of Stafford's hands. Thankfully, the Rams pick it up just enough. And you got Cooper Kupp on the safety, Antoine Winfield Jr., running down the middle of the field. And Stafford delivers an absolute dime to him, puts it right on his hands. And if you think about it, as they play the Niners next week, like that's the type of throw that the Jimmy G didn't make against the Chiefs to Emmanuel Sanders. They're just a little bit long. just outside his reach. Stafford puts it right on Cooper Kupp. They get up there, spike the ball, field goal, 30-27, Rams win. And that's how Matt Stafford gets that elusive playoff victory. He had one last week, gets another one, and now he's playing in the NFC Championship game. And he's an easy guy to root for. His path, Detroit, everything, it almost broke him. Thankfully, he's able to keep it together and gets it done. And a huge victory right there for the Los Angeles Rams, getting back to the NFC Championship game. They're second in 5 years.